Alrighty. Hey, everybody. Thanks for attending the very first Road to Directions live stream that we're doing over here at Fidesic. I'm super pumped. We couldn't ask for a better first guest here in terms of who we're hosting. So today we've got John Rivers, who's both the founder of Marketing Monarchs and the COO of Marketeery. And for the purposes today, what is it called, John? The board at Directions?
Yep, I sit on the board for the Directions North America conference, and I think that's what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, definitely. So the whole idea behind this series, which I think will become more clear as we have some more guests, and I've got some more guests that I can announce at the end of this here today, is really I've been around the scene for a long time, but I haven't really been doing a very good job of showing up to the conferences as often as I should. And I went to Summit this past fall and really had my mind blown about what a difference meeting people in person makes. I think, maybe it was the COVID hangover from being locked in video world for the past several years and actually seeing people face to face and, getting to shake hands and have conversations that don't relate to work. I think that's pretty helpful. So I don't know. But the moral is, I've committed to being present back in the scene, making sure Fidesic is present back in the scene. And the next on the list is Directions. So the thought on this is there's probably other people that are a little rusty on conferences still, a little rusty on going to Directions maybe, and try to bring the best people in that I can find that have experience to kind of help us out and help me out really and figure out sort of what we should be focusing on, what we can expect, and how to take it from there. So, John, I don't know if you have any other preamble on yourself that you'd like to give, but I think you got three roles announced at the top of this. So I would imagine you're quite busy in the channel on a whole bunch of other things. You got anything else here in your project hopper that you're working on that I didn't mention? I'm sure there's something, right?
Oh, yeah, there's plenty of other things. I've been tapped this year. There's another small conference called the ITA Alliance. I'm actually being tapped to help them with some of their content selection. So working through that for their April event as well. That just happens to be the week after Directions. So that's fun at the end of the day, trying to put that together. But yeah, I mean, at the moment, yeah, those are probably the main ones. There's probably plenty of others, but trying to juggle it all right at the end of the day. So yeah, they're probably the key.
Yeah, for sure. And something else I want to mention at the top of this, if anybody's watching live and has any questions or anything, I do have my marketing guy, Carl, in the chat. So he'll get things fielded up. And if we got any good things, we can talk about them at the end. So if you've got any questions about Directions or really anything we talk about, definitely let us know. So kind of kick things off, give us a little more background. I'm curious, John, how long you've A, been on the board for Directions, and B, how long you've been attending. So what do you got for both those?
Well, I started on Directions, I think, when I was probably 5 years old. No, I think it's got to be close to 10 years that I've been on the board. Helping with Directions in different ways. Going to the event probably was a few years prior to that. Not my last, but the previous ISV we attended, but then realized that at that time it would have been NAV, that it wasn't the area that we were going to focus on. We were going to focus more on Exapta, which is now the F&O. So we stopped going. And then when I joined another ISV, then we started attending after that. So it's probably around, time flies by, it's at least 12 or more years now.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm curious, what has been the biggest change with that over, I guess, from like those initial days? Obviously, things got a little sideways the past couple of years. I don't know, how many Directions got canceled in the middle? Was it 2 years of them or 3 years of them?
So
I mean, obviously they were web, but
yeah, we lost. Technically, I suppose we lost 2, but we actually put a virtual event in the middle of it.
Gotcha.
So that sort of, so you could argue and say technically we didn't lose more than 2, or we lost only 1. But it was such a totally different environment in a virtual world.
Yeah. How was the virtual event? I don't know about you. I've tried to attend a couple virtual events, and it's weird because like I don't know if I am doing it wrong or what the case is, but it just doesn't like hit the same way at all for me. Like it has its place and it's good for education, but the most important thing, at least that I've noticed, is like building relationships and talking to people. And that just is, it's like pulling teeth to try to like get that to work in a virtual conference.
Yeah, it was when we were trying to put together the Directions virtual event. I mean, we were looking at all the virtual events that have happened. And it's like, okay, it's great, yeah, right? You can watch, you can hop in back and forth between sessions, probably a lot easier.
Yeah.
Or, right, and you can be listening to, if you've got multiple devices, you could probably listen to multiple at the same time in some cases. And actually, I mean, I'm going to go back. It's a hell of a lot of work to put on a virtual event.
Yeah, I bet it's more in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I think actually it's easier in the long run putting on a physical. I mean, it's just so different. But I think you hit the nail on the head. Networking.
Yeah.
There is no way, and I don't care what anyone else can say, there is no way you can do true networking in a virtual world. We tried we took all the things which weren't working and basically tried to find ways to solve it. And it didn't. I mean, the best example I can do, right, I'll say to you on this one, Kevin, is how do you replicate the situation that I've come down from my room on the elevator, I walk out of the, or let's say even I walk into the elevator, I'm coming off, there's 15 floors, I'm walking in on the 11th, and I bump into you.
Yeah.
Right? How can you replicate that in a virtual world?
And we both chat and realize that we went to the same whatever.
And we can catch up. Maybe we've not met each other and we start talking, or we've met each other, right? And we catch up on stuff. The opportunities that happen are just amazing. I mean, when I was at Summit, I want to say this year, but it's last year now, right? There was a new client that we had, and I was just walking into the expo hall to do my rounds, basically for the first time. I got talking to him. I said, well, more than happy to join me. And at the end of the day, as I said, I warned them. I said, it's probably going to take me half a day to go through this or more. And I'm probably going to do multiple rounds because I know I won't see everyone.
Yeah.
And so I've gone, and they followed me around. And it's like, yeah, it's like stopping the booth, but you're not just stopping the booth. You then bump into someone you haven't seen for however long, or you've been talking to them on the phone or Teams or whatever, but you still want to talk, right? Yeah. So there's just so many more opportunities. And I think a lot of conferences and businesses done around networking. I mean, it must be, if I was a sponsor, how do you draw those people into your virtual booth, right?
Yeah, I have no idea.
Again, it's a challenge there. And again, I mean, when we did Directions virtually, we were looking at all these other add-on things that we could offer to try to make that better for the sponsorship. Yeah. But it's still challenging. At the end of the day, I honestly think a virtual cannot replace an in-person event.
It doesn't seem like it. And I used to be in the different camp. Like, we've been remote and virtual for a super long time at this point, but I'm converting back. Maybe I'm just getting old and I like want to hang out with people and shake their hands or whatever. But like, I don't know. I've flipped on it completely. And like, part of that flip is in virtual world, you like have to have the conversation already sort of figured out when you start. And in the real world, it starts open-ended and you can like build from there. And it like, you don't have to have a reason to talk to somebody at a conference. If you're going to set a meeting with somebody and like a calendar invite and send it to them, you better have a reason to talk to them. And it's like, it's just a totally different, I don't know. I feel like you miss so many opportunities for things that you don't see coming just because like you can't see it until you like have that organic conversation. So that's what's been interesting to me is like you talk to people that you might not have known you needed to or wanted to talk to, but there's like something there that didn't exist without that organic conversation.
100% true. And I think I know we're not going down this road, and we could probably talk it for hours.
Well, yeah, we
It's
talked
like
about this ahead of time, right? We got to be careful.
Yeah, it's like social selling, right? At the end of the day, there's so many people that they'll use LinkedIn, but they think they're doing it right. But you can't just jump down someone's throat and try to sell. You got to build a relationship. I look at that, and at the end of the day, I've got to get to know you. I've got to build it. I'll look at it as like, okay, I'm at a conference. I don't know you. Same piece.
Yeah.
And you got to work down that before you can start to see if there's an opportunity for you. But a lot of us forget that. It's straight in a virtual world. We're straight to, you ready to buy my product?
Yeah.
Let me send you an invoice. Let me, let's send you a way to pay online now. It's like, no, slow it down.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is tough. At the end of the day, I could easily, I don't know, just if you sent me a message on Teams or through LinkedIn, I don't have to respond to you. It's a little harder to walk away from someone not in a bad way at a conference. At the end of the day, you tend to be a little bit more, I'm going to say, polite.
And this is a little tangential, but I think you probably have noticed this too. I feel like in the last 5 years, the things have shifted in terms of that social selling versus contacting people. I feel like it used to feel like you could craft that perfect message to send to somebody and maybe they would respond, but I feel like that doesn't really exist anymore. If they don't know you, you're behind, and they're not going to respond. It seems like there is no perfect message anymore.
I think, well, yes and no. I think at the end of the day it's finding something that will trigger the conversation. And I think we were doing it way back, but we've got to spend more time, right? Yeah. It's going, and let's say the two of us didn't know each other. It's like, okay, I can look at Kevin's LinkedIn. Maybe that doesn't give me a nugget to trigger the conversation. What else could I find? Go in Google, Bing you, and what else is out there? Oh, wow, there was I didn't know that about you. Or there's a case study. It doesn't have to be always something about business. It could be something that's personal that makes a connection. And I think at the end of the day, that's the difference that you've got to do in that world. So, and there's folks out there. I mean, I've sat on some courses on it, and I always looking to refresh. But a lot of it's down to it's not quantity, it's the quality, and you may spend a lot longer on it, but it will benefit in the long run.
Agree. And that's the type of thing that, it seems like that organic connection is just so much easier when you're in a place, an actual place with people.
Well, you've also got a common interest there at that time, right? At the end of the day, it's, I didn't realize you were coming to the conference, or, at the end of the day, you've just got so many things that can open the conversation, and they're easier ones.
For sure. So getting back on conference track, what do you think the most there's all the different parts of directions. There's the expo, there's the conference, there's the sessions, there's all those softer networking opportunities where people just kind of hang out and drink beer and chat. For an ISV company such as myself, what of those activities do you think I should be prioritizing attendance at, or do I just really try to do all of them? I don't know, in the limited time.
God, are we on here for 3 hours, or are we on here for
That's up to you, my guy.
So at the end of the day for an ISV, the expo is an important area. But it's also how you take advantage of that. I think what I learned and what I see out there, what I hear from others is, and the challenge I think you have is, okay, I've got my booth. I can't move any more than 5 feet away from my booth.
Yep. That's welcome to my Summit experience. I feel like I lost a lot because I was just standing at the same spot.
Yeah, I think Summit's a little different just because of the audience. But in the world of directions, you need to leave that booth.
Yeah.
But keep an eye on it. I'm not saying move too far. With the expos, because it's more, at the end of the day, that's where the serving of the food is. That's where the serving of the adult drinks and all that stuff that gets people talking. At the end of the day is my recommendation would be go and grab a small plate of food. Don't go and get a ton of it and sit down once. Go and grab a little bit. Go and sit, stand, whatever, at a table, not people you know. Get to learn a little bit more.
Yep.
Introduce yourself. Once you've finished that up and you're ready to move on, maybe go back to your booth for a little bit, then do it again, right? So don't try to. So I think at the end of the day, you got to move around. So that's one area I would say. At the end of the day, you got to be in many, many places in that expo hall. And I think the mistake is to stand by your booth 24/7. At the end of the day, it's not going to work, because if someone don't want to talk to you, they're going to walk past you, right? Whereas if you're at, I know, the cocktail table, they're going to be polite. They're going to talk to you, right? So it's easier to strike up that conversation, and then maybe it goes somewhere. So that's the expo hall. I think I always joked, and I remember talking to someone new in the ISV world, I don't know, probably like 7-8 years ago, maybe now. And someone asked me to talk to them. And I said, as an ISV, my piece I learned is you're the last man or woman standing, meaning don't drink heavily. Be there at the after event. At the end of the day, I've run into opportunities at 12 o'clock at night, 1 o'clock in the morning, because people are a little bit looser and more willing, and you've got to know them.
They're exhausted. Their guard is down, right? Once people are exhausted, they let their guard down a little bit. They're not so defensive about their time or whatever. Right.
And I'm not going to talk about this person. I tried to explain that to them, and at the end of the day, when I saw them at the bar later in the evening, they'd had a few too many. And it's like, okay, I told you don't do that. At the end of the day, doesn't mean you can't drink, but at the end of the day, think of it. You're there to network. You're there to try to build business, and that's when it gets looser. So I would say the after-hour events are very important. I think the partner celebration, that's a big event that brings about 75% or more. It becomes more casual. Hopefully by then you've built some relationship. If you have an ISV session, is get people there. And I think a lot of the time mistakes that ISVs will make is that they don't promote their sessions beforehand, right? At the end of the day, is directions can only do so much on a promotion, but it is also your job to get people there. So if you're not pumping out on social media, for example, or sharing that out to the community that you have a session, don't cry when you only have 5 people in the room, right? You got to do some work on that. And I think that's a key. What's some of my other tricks? If you're not at the booth, you don't have a booth, or even if you do, and hopefully you have more than one of you, and it's in the middle of the day, go and join some of the regular sessions. Look at who is the speaker. Look at that and start to work out, would my prime target be in the room? Sometimes for me in the past, it was the speaker I wanted to talk to. So you may not get time fully with them, but at least you're going to get some face time, because people are going to keep seeing you. Don't sit at the back, sit at the front, right? So build that relationships as you come out of that session. Maybe it's an opportunity to bump into someone, talk to them. Maybe it's not fully there, but maybe you can start and set a meeting later on. Walk the halls. You'll be surprised how many people you walk into. Goes back to our networking conversation. I think the other big mistake I see is on, ISVs will go off and have their dinner with all their employees, maybe just straight after the expo. And we're going back to the after events. Well, that's great, but can you not talk to your people? When can you talk to them? You can talk to them at any time, right? So why don't you just put that to one side? Put it at the end of the event when things have gone quiet. You're there to do business. So engage, interact with what's going on. So, I think hopefully I've covered most of them.
No, that's really good. The interesting, I don't know, I'm interested about like the ISV session side of it specifically. I have not been doing that like intentionally, because I want to attend enough to like get enough experience to know what is a good session and what is a bad session. I feel like it's really tempting as an ISV to just like do the mortal sin of the pure product pitch session, which, it's hard not to slip into that, and I get that. But I don't know. I feel like I need to attend more ISV sessions to really learn what makes them good and makes them bad before I try to throw my hat in the ring. I don't want to just do one for the sake of doing one. Like, if you're going to do a session, I want it to add value, right? Like, I want it to actually be useful for people as opposed to just, well, the session, I don't want to do a session to have something to talk about on LinkedIn. You know what I mean? Like, that's like, doesn't feel honest, doesn't feel like a way to approach things. So that's interesting.
So
how different is that? How different is that list of advice that you just gave if you're just like a straight up Microsoft partner, like a reseller of BC, or is the list really that different, or is it kind of the same idea?
I think it has some similar ideas, right? As a partner, what are you trying to gain out of it? It depends on who in the partner, right? And I think we were talking offline about, you break this down. It's like, am I an exec? Am I a consultant? Am I a dev? Am I new to BC? Am I in the sales and marketing team, or one of those? So I think at the end of the day is looking at one. Definitely the sessions are going to be the pieces you got to look at, and you may dart between. I mean, again, there may be sessions. I mean, I'm in marketing now, but there could be sessions I might walk into that are new to BC or consulting because I'm servicing that partner network. So I want to learn and hear of what's being talked about. I don't want to be just any other marketing. I want to understand the ecosystem I work in. So I think going to that is beneficial. But I think all of above, really, at the end of the day, I think number one is networking, because at the end of the day, you're learning from other partners. I started using this example recently, is as soon as you walk through the doors of the hotel, you're no longer competitors. Everyone is there to share something. You may not share every piece of your secret sauce, right? But you're there to share and learn. But as soon as you walk back out that door, you're heavy competitors again. Direction, the whole idea is to be there to share and help each other. I mean, what else I could sort of add on to that, and I could throw in other ERPs, right? At the end of the day, I'm not going to mention names, but most of us are competing against it. So why not work as a bigger force to knock them down? Right. So get out there, learn from what others are doing. And I think that's the key. But I think pretty much, I mean, the difference they're not going to have is they're not going to have a booth, right? So they don't have to stand there. But again, don't disappear off up to the room. At the end of the day,
it can be tempting. That's for sure.
It's very tempting. And at the end of the day but directions tried at the board has always been very open and it's always been top of mind to how we keep people in the event and networking, because we know that is huge. And it goes back, I suppose it goes right back to that conversation about virtual, right? You can't replicate that.
No.
So network.
Yeah, I hadn't really thought about from the partner perspective. It's definitely like, at the end of the day, you're sort of trading in knowledge and expertise in the product, right? So the more sessions you can absorb and the more you can add to your knowledge base, that's probably what they care about the most. It's good to, like, you know, from my perspective, partners are kind of like the customers I'm seeking in some ways. So it's like, it's good to like reframe it and think about like, well, what do they actually care about? And they just want knowledge. They want to be the experts. So
I would add to that as well, Kevin, at the end of the day is the ISV world is shifting. What we know is maybe the go-to ISVs back in the NAV days are not necessarily the go-to ISVs today. There has been a lot of new products, different organizations have come in that maybe they're taking a different approach or whatever it is. So I would say don't be closed door. At the end of the day, go and learn about, let's just pick on supply chain, right? Go and talk to all the supply chain, better understand. Maybe there's something that you guys have been struggling with. That now that there is another solution that can solve that, but doesn't necessarily mean it's replacing a historic product. It may be enhancing it. There's a lot of newer ISVs who are in this space that weren't there before. So I think that there's that piece I think that needs to happen as well. So yeah.
And I could go on a tangent on that all day long about how like the technology. I feel like technology always moves in like spurts, right? So like everything changes really quickly and then everything's the same for a long time. I feel like we're coming to an end of everything has been the same for a little while, and like everything is about to start shifting really quickly again, which upends everything, right? Like it upends the ISV order, the partner order, and in that world, it is super important to have the Dynamics wagons all circled together against everything else out there, because at the end of the day, like, I mean, BC as a product is a summation of all of the add-ons and partners that go with it. And that's the compelling argument of if you're like shopping for an ERP, right? So we all need to, be a builder. Don't be somebody who tears down, right? Like, what can we do to build together? I think that's all definitely very important, very interesting. We've kind of already talked about what makes Directions different than the other conferences that exist in this space. Being partner focused completely, I think, is obviously the biggest thing. But I don't know if you want to elaborate on what makes it different a little more than that. If there's anything else that comes to mind. Obviously, we've already sort of talked about this a little bit, but you tell me.
Yeah, so I would say, I mean, you're hitting it right there, and I think we have touched it. It's a partner event that's not only focused for the partners, but it's run by the partners. At the end of the day, we're not for profit. At the end of the day, our focus is to put everything back into that from that standpoint. But when we go out there, and I'll just pick on content, I know we're going to get there at some point on content, but it's the community that go and submit the topics. Yes, we have a good quantity of sessions that come from Microsoft. That's great, right? They're going to talk it from their point of view. But at the end of the day, we also want the community, the partners, the ISVs, to talk about their experience of it. Right, I'm trying to be polite here. But at the end of the day, right, even if there's problems, right, how do they solve it?
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, I think that's really key. And on my content team, I have a number of folks who are in the industry, everything from execs down to consultants, developers, sales and marketing. I have a good mix, CE people. And the whole idea is that we want them to look at it, the content we have submitted together, and find the sessions that they would go to, because they're the attendees. Not only they could be speakers, but they're attendees, the ones who are helping with the selection. They know the problems out there, right? I mean, like I said, I'm in marketing. I get it. I could probably pick a lot of consulting sessions on my own.
Yeah.
But I'm not out there implementing BC.
Yeah.
So therefore, there may be something that I'm missing. I'm only going to take my experience from what I'm learning from the people I work with. So if there's stuff out there, it really helps. So I think that's really, we don't bring end users in. I think that's another key area at the end of the day is you don't mix the two together, because now we can have that conversation without the end user in. It goes back to my piece about as soon as you walk through the front door.
That's exactly what I was going to point out. Yep.
Right. You're no longer competitors. You're working for the greater good of the product and solution.
Yeah.
And you can share, hopefully you're going to share some things which are working or not working. And I think that's the big difference of the event. Last year's in-person event, we were the second largest event. We were very close to probably smashing our biggest event that happened just prior to lockdown, which we had close to 1,000 people. The gut this year is that we're going to smash that biggest ever event. I mean, the number of ISVs and sponsors we have this year is huge. But also what we're seeing with the trends at the moment, they're trending to be a very big event.
I mean, I would imagine it's trending with BC in general, right? Like as BC grows, I'm sure it directly translates into growth of this, right?
Right, yeah, that's correct. But I think also to add into that, over the last few years, we've evolved into being focused around BC, but BC not being the only conversation.
Yep.
Right? If I'm a partner, what's the importance nowadays of Power Platform? What's the importance of the CE side of the products, right? Now, it doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to have a practice that supports it, but I probably need to have someone I can turn to help me support it, right? At the end of the day, all of those products are becoming so entrenched. I mean, I talk to a number of partners. It's like every time that they sell BC, they're probably selling something in the stack of the CE stack. And also, as a follow-on, they can, maybe not out of the gate, they have the opportunity to upsell with Power Platform.
Yeah.
With one of those products. So at the end of the day is we've evolved, even that, like I said, we are focused around historically NAV and BC. That's our underpinning. But we look at ourselves as the SMB, SME conference for the partners. Right? And also then you've got the GP folks. We're not going to have a ton of GP sessions, but we're going to have sessions to help you move from GP to BC.
Yeah.
Right. And where the challenges are around that. How do you solve it? And all of those types of things. So, yeah, at the end of the day is, I mean, and I'm not trying to pick on others, but at the end of the day, how can you have a conversation about M&A? That really needs to be a partner-focused event. It doesn't make sense to have unless you're talking to the end users execs, but that's not the conversation here. We're looking at sessions that are helping the partners. Same goes as like, okay, hey, partner exec or ISV, what's your challenges?
Yeah.
Let's get you in for a round table and let's talk about it as a group. And then see if we can find some people to help answer that, or maybe the answer's already there that someone else in that round table's got. So, and it's tough to keep when you have a conference that covers both. It's hard to have a conversation without a customer in the room.
Yes.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, that's all your true, like, I mean, yeah, you want to network and you want to do all these other things, but
that's your focus, right? Because if you're at an end user event, at the end of the day, the reason you're there is to target the end user. You're not looking at your own organization so much.
Yeah. I found it hard to really justify spending lots of time in sessions when I know there's customers that I could be trying to, meet or chat or help them. It's like I don't want my own I'm not worried about my own education right now. I'm trying to like talk to people, and versus this, I'm super excited. I feel like I'm pumped for that session list to come out and start perusing that, like all that Power Platform. And I don't know, for me, it's exciting to like get some direct sessions from Microsoft. I mean, you could like flip it different ways where it's like, maybe I wish there were more of the like partners or whatever. But for me, having Microsoft there is like super exciting. As ISV on the smaller side, I don't have a ton of Microsoft reps that I can call and chat with and, get a ton of intel. So it's super exciting for me to like actually attend some of those sessions and see what the message is from them directly. And I'm pumped for that.
Well, yeah. I mean, at the end of the day is the keynotes, right? We have the keynotes, which are done by Microsoft. I mean, yes, we have some ISV stuff in there as well, but mainly it's Microsoft up on the keynotes. Again, how can you have, this is not a pick. I know I keep saying it, but how can you have a keynote that talks to both partners and end users at the same time? You can't, because technically, as soon as you walk in that room, you're under NDA anyway, unless there's certain things that can be publicly out there. But it gives the opportunity for you to listen to Microsoft from Microsoft's perspective.
Yeah.
The number of people that we have from the Microsoft team, I mean, it's huge. I mean, they bring a whole big group from Denmark. I mean, by the time we probably finish up, I don't know, we're probably somewhere between 50 to 70 Microsoft people there. I mean, last year we started involving the Power Platform team more and more. Now we have those guys. We have Ryan Cunningham and his team looking to probably do more sessions this year. We're talking, hopefully, I'm fingers crossed that we're going to get a little bit more from the CE side. That's being in conversation. But at the end of the day, I can't guarantee that, but that's what we're trying to do. But at the end of the day is the opportunity now Is that going to be the right person, say, for you, Kevin, to go and talk to? Maybe, maybe not. But at least you can go and have that. And they're pretty open. Tell me a conference where the help team come from Microsoft. We bring them in, right? So now you can go and talk to them face to face. You haven't got to wait on a call for whatever length of time it takes, right? You've got them face to face. I'm not saying that happens, but you know what I mean? Now you can talk to them. And I think that's another key. So there's a lot of value from what Microsoft bring, but there's also the other flip side, the value we just talked about, that the partner community brings to the audience as well. So you get both sides of the story there.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm definitely excited to start.
I'm always excited about this conference. I mean, I know I sit on the board, but I mean, I could, like I said, I mean, I think it's probably, I love going to Summit. I love going to a lot of the other conferences out there, but I don't see them in the same light as I do this one.
So kind of put a bow on this a little bit so we don't ramble too long.
Right.
What is success for you? What are you measuring yourself by on this conference? What do you look at after this is done and go, yeah, that was a good that was a good directions event. Like we feel like we were successful. What are you looking to? And maybe not like KPIs or something that specific. You can go a little softer than that if you want, but
I think at the end of the day I think from a board standpoint, we're probably always going to look at the number of people we got there. I think that's always, I mean, again, that's probably goes into a KPI. I think it's really hearing the buzz, right? It's as you walk around and say, and you hear the comments like, wow, that session was really good, or wow, they did an amazing job on this, or just even little things like at the end of the day, food and stuff like that, is people felt that they wanted to be there, right? I think the bottom line is not having complaints. You're always going to get a few. There's no buts about that. And there's always something that goes wrong. You try your best to keep them down to the minimum. But I think at the end of the day is the key is the buzz. I think for me is you can tell if it's been successful from the buzz out there. And I think that's my takeaway.
Yeah, that is what I've heard too. And the people that I've talked to that have attended, there's a buzz about it for sure.
Right.
When they're not talking about the Harry Potter exhibit, they're definitely talking about all the great connections they made.
Yeah. Well, at the end of the day, I mean, we put on some amazing partner celebrations, but we know what it does and it attracts and it gets people to talk to each other.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's I don't know. Maybe I'll take my board hat off a second. So taking that off, but maybe it sometimes seems a bit excessive, but it's not. The value that comes back from it is huge. And I think that's the key as well. It's so, there's a lot of, I think, to me, it's all about the positives, right? But I want to hear about the negatives as well, because the end of the day is we can only continue to improve. I think one of the areas that we're evolving, like I said, over the years, we've bought a Power Platform track. We've bought a CE track. And those two tracks have been evolving for the last few years. This year, we bought another brand new track called Workplaces to talk about diversity, inclusion, women in tech, the 4-day-a-week that conversations out there, those types of things. They don't fit under sales and marketing.
No.
They don't fully necessarily fit under exec leadership. Some of it may, but we now have a dedicated track to it. We got to have these conversations. So we're testing that out this year. Our exec track is evolving.
That's a really interesting idea. I hadn't heard of that yet for that going on at Directions, but that's, if you don't have the best people working in the channel that are happy to work there, you're going to lose to somebody eventually, like whoever is able to attract it, right?
Yeah, but it's like, I know. So there's things like I think of like the practical approach to inclusive leadership, right? I mean, that's just things are changing. Some of our ecosystem is getting older, right? We've got to encourage the younger generation into it to continue the where we're going. So we've got to have these conversations. So it can't be just one or two people. We've got to bring it out in the open. So that's what we're doing. Exec track, we're evolving that. It may not be perfect this year, but we're trying to get it so it's a more of a conversational track than, hey, I'm going to come in and listen to John Rivers ramble about this. At the end of the day, maybe that's a good thing. Maybe you want to listen to me ramble, but which, if you've been on this call, you've heard me ramble. But at the end of the day, is we want to turn it into more workshop, round table conversations, right? Yeah. There's things that can be shared when you're listening to someone. Sometimes that's hard. So we're evolving that this year. Like I said, I mean, I don't expect it to be perfect. I'm hoping it will be, and everyone enjoys it. But it's more about the concept we're trying to take it to. Those changes don't happen in just one conference. They take a few conferences before they get perfect.
Cool. Well, I'm more excited than I was at the start of this conversation. So I'd say
I'm glad you are.
You've done your job appropriately. I'm feeling super excited to get down there and really network mostly, but something that I just hadn't really thought about a whole lot was all the sessions and how there is a lot of good in there that I think I can, increase my knowledge and, help out the best I can to make the channel good. And, I'm no longer the youngest guy in the room at these events anymore, but I'm still pretty close. So I think we gotta... I'll do what I can to attract some other young talent the best I can.
Well, the other one is, right, one I didn't add, right, is if you don't go to a session, don't go up to your room and work.
Yeah.
Go and sit at one of the tables we give you. Yeah. Work there. Because that will, at some point, it's not your own table. Someone's going to come and sit there, or you're going to sit on someone else's table. Yeah. You're going to strike up a conversation that you probably never expected to. So, yeah, at the end of the day, stay away from your room. Go to your room when you need to sleep, not to work.
All right. Well, thank you so much, John. This is super enlightening. Couldn't have asked for a better first guest on this.
It's been fun.
It's going to be tough for anybody else to follow it, if I'm being honest, but we'll see. And since we're in live stream mode, I'll be a bit casual about it and take a look at my calendar here. So announce who's coming up next week. I should know off the top of my head, but such is life. Yes. Next week, next Friday, same time, we will be having Linda Rose, formerly of Rose ASP. She's talked to her yesterday, had the primer call. I'm super excited for that one too. She's got a very unique perspective on the channel, having grown a business, sold a business, really written a book focusing on the M&A side of things. I know she's excited to get down there too. And I think she's got some sessions planned specifically focusing on M&A. So that'll be a totally different perspective from somebody that, not the type of person I usually get to talk to. So I'm excited for that one. On the 3rd, I've got Khalid Nasra from Binary Stream, who's that marketing guy from Binary Stream that you see on every video that is floating around. Last time, he tends to be in a lot of different places. So he's another person who's super active in the channel, has been glowing in his recommendations of going to directions. So I'm excited to talk to him. So that's on March 3rd. And then we've got Carol Livingston on March 10th scheduled out as well. So, and I forgot about Amy from the ISV Society on 224. Skipped right over her. So got a good crop of people. Got some ISV focus, got some larger ideas, mergers and acquisitions focused people. And we've got Carol, who's a fixture of the scene and always down to network and get people connected. So it's got a good crop of
list.
People. Yeah, I'm excited. And I'm, again, it's funny trying to come up with what we're going to talk about for this sort of thing. And it's well, I'm just going to talk about the things that I want to know. And hopefully some other people find it interesting too. So any closing words, John? Anything else you want to leave us with here? Any words of wisdom? What you got coming up next?
if you haven't signed up for directions, you should be signing up today. I mean, based on this.
It's not too late. It's not sold out.
It's never too late to sign up. What I will say is, like, just get on there. And if you're on the fence, at the end of the day, rooms are getting full up very quickly.
Yeah.
Get yourself signed up. And I think we actually have a price increase coming up soon as well. So take that opportunity now. I know, Kevin, you're going to go and buy some extra tickets. I know that.
Yeah.
So, because you're so excited now. But yeah, I mean...
Yeah,
but no, I appreciate.
Bring my friends and family along. You know.
Yeah,
just.
I mean, they may learn something.
Learn something, all right.
Hey,
yeah,
that's a power platform.
Yeah, that's true, and I am excited for that one too. That sounds great. But
yep.
So yeah, that is all from our end. So signing off. Thanks again, John. Greatly appreciate you hopping on here, and I look forward to seeing you down in Orlando. Will happen soon.
Likewise. Look forward to seeing everyone down in Orlando. So let's go and smash this attendance number and be the biggest ever event, and just go and have an enjoyable time and learn some new stuff.
Deal. Sounds good. Thank you, John. We'll talk soon.
All right. Thanks all.